This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.
What's happening to you guys? Welcome back to Let's Go Win podcast. And today we are going to be, as you know, we always focus on being happy, healthy, wealthy. And the gentleman I'm going to bring on today, we're definitely focusing on that. We're going to be talking about strategies to effectively lead yourself so that you can be the best leader that you can be, how to bring out the best in your team and promote candid feedback. There's so many good things that this gentleman's bringing to the table. I'm excited. Greg Birch is a true warrior at heart, having served our country as an Army officer in both Iraq and Afghanistan. After completing his service, he used his natural leadership abilities to excel in the insurance industry, setting sales records and coaching others to achieve greatness. But it was his personal struggle with anxiety and depression that led him on a journey of self-discovery and the creation of the progressive discipline technique. Today, as the founder of Delta Fit, Greg is dedicated to helping individuals transform their physical, mental, and spiritual health to become their best selves. Brother, and looks so you are definitely fit, man. You're definitely putting in the work. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm great. So I know the sir, that must be either a Southern thing or a military thing. So
it's my so I'm a Southern boy. I'm from Tennessee. And my parents I was very like strict in terms of like I call everyone sir and ma'am. So I'm just so used to it. People are like, oh, sir's my dad. I'm like, dude, it's ingrained in me. Like I'm like, man, my mom's gonna smack the hell out of me if I don't call someone sir or ma'am. So
those hardwires run deep, brother. I know how that is. I literally cannot not finish my plate of food every single time because I just see my dad like I'm looking for the hand. Like, you better finish that, man.
Yeah.
I want to start with thank you for your service, brother. That's amazing to both Iraq and Afghanistan.
Thank you for your support, by the way. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry.
Thank you for your support.
Well, brother, I just look. I never served. I am absolutely fascinated by military leadership, by so much of what the military does. So it's truly my honor. But so, yeah, man, let's get a little bit of this breakdown. So we go serve, then you go crush it in insurance, and then life is not going as ideal as maybe you hoped. So give me the synopsis a little bit as we dive into you really overcoming some of these demons.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So, you know, I spent 11 years in the military, right? And while I was in the military, I was married. I have 4 kids. And so we got a divorce. And, you know, ultimately what happened was we both cheated on each other, right? She cheated on me. I got mad. I cheated on her. And, you know, we talk about it. We went through counseling, didn't really work out. We ended up separating. And that was in 2015. And so, and I was in the military. I got out of the military in 2017. And that changed everything. That changed everything for me. A lot of that caused a lot of depression being away from my kids, you know, because she went back home. I was in Arizona and she went back home where we were from in Tennessee. And what was once a career that I was like, I'm going to spend my life in the military. I loved it. I loved the service. I loved coaching soldiers and like helping create better people, turned into, man, I'm missing so much time with my kids. And so I ended up getting out, and I didn't really know what to do. Right. And so, like most people, I ended up starting a job in Dallas area. That's why I came to Dallas. I started a job in public storage and I hated it. And I had this realization that like, man, I'm no longer in the military. I don't have to do what Uncle Sam tells me to do. I can do whatever I want. And so I ended up quitting with no backup plan, and was off work for like a month, and I was looking at Indeed ads for something I wanted to do. And there was an ad for sales leading to management. And I was like, well, I test high in sales because I was influential in the things that I did in the military. I was a human interrogator. I was a interrogator and human source operator. So like I ran sources and did all kinds of stuff. It was really fun. But I tested high in sales, and I was like, and I have a lot of leadership ability because I was an officer. So this is right up my alley, right? So I go to this interview, and it was a non-existent company, and it ended up being life insurance. And I was like, it seems kind of skeevy. I don't know. But at the same time, I was like, there's people here that are making money. Like everyone that worked there, they had nice suits, they had nice watches, they had nice cars. And I was like, there's something here. And so I was like, why not? I'll see what it is and I'll get my license. And if I don't like it, I have another license and I can do it if I want to, or I can branch off and do something else. And so kind of the rest is history. I stayed in life insurance and, like any other entrepreneurial opportunity or solopreneur, I was not good at first. I had initial success and then I kind of crashed and I was doing the wrong things, right? I was relying on talent, what I felt was talent, and not following the process, not following skills. And so it was about a year, it was all 2018 that I'd have just enough success to kind of like skate by, but then I would like fail, then a little success, fail. And it wasn't until I had a very open conversation with someone that was like a top producer that was crushing it. And that he gave me some guidance, and it was much needed guidance. It was one of those conversations that you don't want to have, but you need to hear. And he just looked at me and said, "Hey man, I know what's wrong with you," after having a conversation, asked me questions, digging in. He was like, "Dude, you think you're special and you're not. And you're not having success because you're not following the system." And so that's when I was like, dude, I'm gonna turn my brain off, boop, and I'm gonna just follow, right? And sales, that's what sales really is. It's like, stop trying to recreate the wheel. And that's what I think most people that are in sales that are not having success, I can almost always pinpoint when I have a conversation with them. It's just like, you're not doing the base fundamentals that every salesperson does. And it's not knowing the script. It's not saying the right things or having the magic words. What it really is, it's like the soft skills. It's controlling your schedule. It's controlling your activity. It's practicing daily, reading daily, growing yourself. And so when I started doing those things, I went from like in 2018, I produced total $75,000 worth of insurance. I probably deposited about 60,000. And in 2019, I made that switch and I sold 425,000 and I deposited like 360. And so it was a massive shift. And and what I realized is like, that was, my issue. I was the same person. I just started doing different things. And so what that started was people started reaching out to me and they're like, "What are you doing?" Because they saw the difference, right? They're like, "Dude, you're crushing it now. What are you doing?" And I started coaching people. And I think I have a unique way that I coach because I'm very simple. Like I'm very like military, like, dude, tell me what I got to do. Give me a checklist and do it. And so I would break things down with people in a very like to the most micro level. And I'd be able to tell them, "Hey, this is where you're messing up. Do this, this, and this. Come back to me and we'll see if that works." We'll apply those things. And I would apply it slowly over time to kind of raise their competency level. And then they would come back and they'd be like, "Man, that helped. Like no one's ever coached me like that." So that's how I started coaching insurance agents, right? Now, on the outskirts, it seemed like, oh man, there's this guy, he's making several six figures a year and he's really successful. Man, he must be happy and crushing it, but I wasn't. I was still fighting these demons from my past marriage that I cheated on my wife, regardless of if she cheated on me. I still decided to cheat on her. And I was, her and I got together. We knew each other in high school and we got together when I was in college. And so my entire adult life, I'd been with somebody. And I know, like, I was not the strapping man I am today. I was a scrawny kid. Had a lot of self-esteem issues, and that kid still exists within me.
Sure.
And I had a lot of self-esteem issues. And when I was younger, I was geeky. I was nerdy. I got picked on. I watched anime. I was an artist. I used to draw all the time. And I got picked on. I'm 6'7". And I'm a tall guy, so I stand out everywhere I go. But I was 6'7" and 170 pounds. Like I was soaking wet. I was like a walking, Ichabod Crane everywhere I went. And people would comment about it, like, "Man, you're real big," or "You're real tall." Like, "Man, you're scrawny." And people don't think about that, but like that works on a kid, And it's the same as if I were to walk up to somebody, like, "Man, you're really fat." Like, like it's literally the same thing. And so I was just as self-conscious about it. And so I had these self-conscious issues, right? And I just attach myself to whoever, because I think I'm not good enough to be with anybody. I'm the scrawny, ugly kid. I end up, married. We're married for a long time, and now we divorce, and these feelings start to resurface. So the best thing that I think to do is, well, I'm going to go get with the first person I can, because I don't want to be alone, because I'm afraid of that. I don't want to face my thoughts. And so I start this really, really toxic habit of starting a relationship with somebody within, like, I'm talking like 3 days, max. And I'm not processing or healing. And I'm not like looking into myself. And because I had dependency issues. And I was going into these relationships for the wrong reasons. And so I had this relationship in 2018. And the woman I was with, we were not compatible, but I was forcing it, and I was unhappy. I knew I was unhappy. In fact, I used to call my friends all the time, like, I don't think I should be with this person. She moved in way too quick. I'm going way too fast. Like, I feel trapped, right? It would cause fights. And then she would, and I think, subconsciously she knew that I wasn't happy. So then she'd be like, I'm out, F you, we're done. And this caused me to spiral. And I already had PTSD, and now I got this anxiety and depression, and it would cause me to spiral, and it would cause me to, like, and so everyone's PTSD is a little different. My PTSD is and what I was treated for was more of like, imagine that your mind is like a cup with stress. Okay. So everyone has stress that fills up that cup. And when your cup overflows, that's when you kind of like, it's almost like your brain reboots and you can't do anything. Right. And everyone reacts differently. I was so used to high stress, high up tempo environments from being deployed from the military that so stress is like constant in my life. Like, I'd wake up stressed. But since I'm such high stress, it's like my cup's like an 80% at all times. And it still kind of is. The good thing about that is that most things don't stress me out. So I'm just like, meh, not that big of a deal. But the things that did stress me out, I had very little room to cope. And I would overflow. And when I overflowed, I would draw within myself. I would remove myself from people. I would become lonely. I would be in my thoughts, and my mind would start to spiral, and I would start to get depressed, and I would start to think all these dangerous thoughts. I started to think about suicide, and these thoughts are like, it's almost like gravity. Like, you just fall into it, and the thoughts lead to more thoughts. And then before you know it, I'm like researching like ways to kill myself that are clean and easy, and no one has to worry about it. Right. And I'm like, it was bad. And so I'm in this relationship with this woman, and every single time that she's like, I'm leaving, all of a sudden, even though I'm unhappy, all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to be alone. Right. And she didn't love me, and nobody loves me, and I don't want to be here, and no one cares if I'm here. And it just spirals. So we had this big fight in May of 2018. And it was the dumbest thing. And me at the time, I was drinking all the time, socially, and this at home, let's having Jack, I'm a bourbon whiskey guy. And we get in this fight, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. She goes up to our bedroom, she locks the door, and her daughter's living with us too. And she puts her daughter in the playroom to watch TV. And I'm downstairs, and I'm like, well, I got nothing else to do. So I crack open this bottle of Jack. It's this like a handle, big, like the big bottle. And I just start drinking. And I drank half of that thing between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. And I'm calling my friends, and I'm talking to people, and I'm trying to like voice my feelings. And I'm just like, I'm spiraling, right? And the alcohol is not helping. And I realized, like, I got to go to this appointment for insurance, right? I got an appointment tonight at like 6. So 5 o'clock, I'm like, oh, I got to go get ready. And
I'm not laughing because it's funny, but I am imagining this scenario. And yeah, this is a bad idea. This is not this bad.
It was a terrible idea. Terrible. And so I go upstairs, and she had unlocked the door, and I start just getting ready. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I got an appointment at 6. And she was like, you're hammered. You're not going to appointment. I was like, I'm going. She was like, let me drive you. And I was like, no, you don't want to drive me. You don't even want to be with me. No, you don't love me. I'm just being obstinate. And she comes over and she walks over to me and she's trying to like console me. She's like, no, it's okay. Like, it's just a fight. And then me, I'm like, no, like my heart's still racing. I'm like, no, like we got to talk about this now. Right. And I'm like, I'm the kind of person, like, I want to talk about my feelings. I want to talk about this stuff. Like, I want to get this out so we can, and not push it under the rug. So I'm trying to talk to her and I'm explaining to her, like, basically what I just told you, like, hey, this is like me. And like, this is what causes me anxiety. And like, I don't have a lot of space. And like, I'm flowing over, like I'm shutting down. I'm going to these dark thoughts, and I'm explaining this to her. And I'm trying to tell her basically, like, I'm having suicidal ideations right now. Right. And as I'm talking to her, you can just tell that, and it's probably the way I delivered it too, because I'm probably like, when you do this, it's making me feel like you do this, and you can tell that she's just like checking out, and she has this blank stare. And when I'm telling her this, she finally stops me and she was like, why don't you go effing slit your wrist then? And that was like the moment. That was the moment that it was like, all right, that's the sign. That was my sign. I'm not meant to be here. And so I just stopped talking. I walked over to my closet. I had a pistol that was in a locked box. I grabbed the box out, pull out my keys, and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm just ignoring her. I'm just like slowly unlocking the box and opening it up. She's calling the cops now. She's calling 911. She's like, stop. And she's like calling the cops, and I'm just ignoring her, and I'm loading the pistol. And then she runs out of the room. And I'm like, oh, no. You're going to watch this. You want me to slit my wrist? You're going to see this. And she goes into the playroom with her daughter. She locks the door. And I could hear she's got the 911 operator on speakerphone. And she's telling them that I got a gun. And so I pushed the door and it's locked. I go to open, it's locked. And I just put my hand on it and I just pushed it open. And I put the gun to my head. And I was like, you want me to kill myself? And it was pandemonium. It was just like, she was screaming, her daughter was screaming, the 911 operator was like yelling on the phone. And I had this moment where I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like her daughter screaming. And I was like, they think I'm trying to hurt them. And I stopped and I closed the door and I walked outside. I walked downstairs and I walked outside and I sat down in this fold out chair in my backyard. And I called my friend, a really close buddy of mine, that him and I went to Afghanistan together. He's still in the military at the time. And I was like, bro, this is it. This is it, man. I don't know what to do. I was like, I think this is goodbye kind of thing. And he was like, dude, stop what you're doing. He was like, it's not over. I was like, the cops are coming. He was like, did you do anything? I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, did you fire the weapon? No. Did you hurt anybody? No. He said, well, stop what you're doing. And then about that time, I started hearing sirens. And it was like cop car, cop car, cop car. Dude, like 10 cop cars came to the house. And it was a small street too. And I'm like in the middle of the street in terms of like from end to end. The whole street's filled with cop cars. They come out, they're on loudspeakers. And they're like, Greg Birch, get out of the house with your hands up. And I'm outside on the back side of the house, just sitting in the backyard. Like they had no idea at the time. And I was like, dude, it's over. And he's like, dude, unload the weapon. Go talk to the cops. You haven't done anything. Right. And so I went inside. I let him go. And as I let him go, they called my phone. And so the cops got on their phone. They're like, hey, are you inside? And I said, yes. Like, you have the weapon? I said, yes. And they're like, okay, unload it and put it on the couch. And I did. They're like, come on outside, let's have a talk. And I opened the door and I walked out. And as soon as I walked out, like this flood of emotion hit me. And I just started bawling, like uncontrollably, like snot. I couldn't even see, just everywhere. And I went out there and this cop looked at me and he looked inside because I left the door open and outside there was a or inside above my TV in the living room, I had my company command guide on. It's massive. It's actually hanging right above this mindset picture behind me. And he looked and he said, "Did you serve?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, Did you go to overseas?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude," he's like, let me ask you, are you seen by the VA? Do you get help?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "Bro, you brought some shit back. You need to. All right. You need some help." And he was like, "We're gonna get you some help, man." And so they took me to an inpatient facility for mental health, where I sat in a waiting room for 48 hours, never got seen because I was low priority. And eventually my sister drove from Tennessee to Texas to come take custody of me. And she took me to the VA, and I went to the VA and started getting seen. But that was like the rock bottom for me. That was the moment when I was like, I need to make changes in my life. And it took for me to get to that point where I was very close to taking my own life, and sat for 48 hours just thinking about this, just letting it go through my head, and like what I did and what I could have done and things I was doing in my life and why I was unhappy. And so that actually caused my ex-wife, who knew, she was in communication with, like, time my girlfriend, because my girlfriend spent time with my kids. She had spent time with her, and so my girlfriend told her what happened. And my ex-wife called me while I was in that facility. They were like, "Hey, is there Gregory Birch here?" And went and got the phone, and my ex-wife was like, "Hey, heard what happened? I just got a phone. I was there maybe 6 hours already." She was like, "I just put in a protective emergency order to the courts. I'm taking your custody. And by the way, they're not coming this summer. They're supposed to be there in like 3 weeks." I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" like you kick me while I'm down.
The best time to be. And look, no judgment, honor. I get it, protecting kids, but my goodness,
Yeah.
I want to. I will get back to the story. It's very compelling. I rarely let somebody talk that much, but it's such a compelling story. There's so much I want to break down in what you've said so far.
Yeah.
Obviously, often you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will also tell you, you don't know this about me, Greg, but my dad actually did kill himself March 6th of 2022. And I had no idea it was even a possibility. Now, I only say that to say your friend on the phone, that's incredible. The officer that grabbed you and kind of said, "Hey, man, you need to go seek help," incredible. The fact that you're willing to openly discuss these feelings, right? And maybe it was a cry for help. I don't know, right? I don't know. Only you know.
Yeah.
But what I would say is there's so many amazing things that happened that allow you to still be here today, to be now helping people. So that's one thing. The earlier thing that I wanted to talk about is this military guy gets out and he wants this freedom. And what he realizes, man, this freedom is not exactly allowing me to thrive. And I think what you found is your discipline is what creates your freedom. And you're so used to discipline. It's fascinating, as you were talking about. Again, I have a background in life insurance. Well, I built many companies in that space. So I don't know where to take all that, but those were my overwhelming thoughts as you're talking. I'm like, God, that's so good on a business side. And then you get into the story and I'm like, oh, geez, now we're definitely talking about, mental health, which I'm very passionate about. And so, thank you for sharing all of that. So your ex-wife is saying, "Look, I'm taking the kids." This is not ideal for somebody that's going through an episode, if that's what it was. So what happens?
So, it was shortly after this that I had the conversation with the guy. I was like, "Dude, you're not special." It was shortly after this time frame. And I was like, you know what? I think the best thing I can do is just shut everything off and focus on work, right? And just be successful. It's like I owe it to my kids, I owe it to myself, and I also, there was a part of me that I wanted to prove my ex-girlfriend wrong because she was, like I wanted her to see that like I was better without her. Like there was a bit of ego there, right?
Sure.
And so that's what I did. And I started going to therapy. I was going to counseling, and I was better. I started identifying my triggers. Like I started to identify like, hey, this is making me anxious. I'm like, I'm out. Like I'm gonna go relax. I don't want to get to my cup cannot overfloweth. Like, like I started knowing these things early on so that I would step out of a situation. And so I never had those same things happen. I was also under medication. I got on antidepressants and stuff like that. So and I started focusing on like, I got to do everything I can to make sure that I can get my custody back. And so that custody battle, to long story short, it lasted from 2018 until 2022, last year. When it was finally done. And I ended up getting better custody in the end. So spoiler alert. But I still had this gnawing issue within me of not wanting to be alone, of not wanting to be a part of myself. And I still got in these toxic relationships. Like I would be single for 2 to 3 days, and then I'm in a relationship for like a year, and then 2 to 3 days, 6 months, 2 to 3 days, a year and a half. And so, I had a really, really toxic relationship that ended at the end of 2020, like December 2020. And when it ended like horrifically bad. Like, and I didn't spiral out of control, but it's just the situation was so bad. Like I could write a book on it, and anyone that read it, like, that really happened. I'm like, yeah, really crazy. But it made me stop and be like, I kind of looked at it. I was like, I keep having these crazy, like toxic girlfriends. And I was like, I'm the common denominator.
Maybe I need to look in the mirror. Yeah.
I'm the problem.
Yeah.
And it took for me to stop, to have that moment of self-realization, to then say, okay, in 2021, I'm not going to spend any time with anybody. I'm going to be single. And this was the first time in my adult life that I was single longer than 3 days. I kid you not. And I started focusing on personal development. And I started going back to my roots of like the military discipline. And you're absolutely right what you were saying. Discipline gives you freedom. And when I started doing things on a daily basis, focusing on bettering myself, putting my oxygen mask on first, taking care of myself, self-care, stuff like that. And I'm not talking like the frou-frou self-care. I'm talking like putting myself in a position every single day to make sure that I'm growing. Like I started reading every day, and I was not a reader. I started reading every single day. I started watching my diet, what I fed myself. I completely removed alcohol. I started exercising every single day. When I did these things, it built over time. It built this discipline that, like, even if I didn't want to do it, and that's I think the key was, I'd have days that I'd wake up that I'd be like, I don't feel like working out today. Right. Or I'd push off reading till the last minute. Like, I got to do this, got to do this. And then it's nighttime and I'm like tired. And I still got to read. And most people in that moment would be like, you know what? I'll just read more tomorrow. And in it's those little compromises that you make that make you slide backwards. You don't realize. And when I was like, no, I committed, I'm going to do this. Hey, you know what? That's my fault for not doing it earlier. Not control my schedule. So now I got to stay up an extra 30 minutes, an hour to do my reading, to take notes, to do it the right way, not half-assed it. And those were the days that I got the most growth. Those are the days that like it really deposited into my discipline. And that discipline over time, I started to see change. And change, I believe, this is my feeling and belief on it. And you can chime in and like, you tell me what you think. Change is progress in our life, and progress is what brings true joy and like happiness within. Because like when you see that you're making a difference, or you feel that you're making a difference, and your mind makes that mental flip switch, it's like, wow, I never used to be a reader, and now I've read 3 books.
Yeah, the identity shift. So a couple things I do want to dive in, because what you said, this realization that I am attracting these same people, these same relationships, I'm the one attracting it, right? When you look in the mirror and you can say, it's not them, I'm the one actually seeking these people out. And by the way, I've seen it many, many times. I've seen it with a business partner. I've seen it with, my brother. And it's not an easy thing to say, look, I'm the one that's doing this. And it doesn't mean they're bad human beings. It just means that we're not compatible. What's important for me and what I need, they're not able to provide that. Right. So that's a huge thing. I love what you're talking about with this change. And I call it upgrade. That's actually the name of my next book, is this idea of upgrading. We love to be upgraded. Most people resist change because it's new, it's scary, it's different. I like comfort. Well, growth comes when you're uncomfortable. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. And to give everybody a little context here. So Greg said he was 6'7", I'm 6'5". The man said he was 170 pounds. I'm looking at these arms and I'm going to say 235 and shredded.
Dude, you're on the money. 235.
Yeah. But guys, look, I'm 6'5", 250. This man's arms are ginormous. So, but I say all that to say he put in real work, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I want to hear more on this because I love what you're saying. The diet, the reading, you talked about being on medication and regulating some of these things and going through what I call the work with the VA and other therapy. So let's keep down that road, brother, of what does it look like for you to show up as your best version of who you are today, right? This strapping, good looking dude that's like happy. You can see you're happy, right? You don't have this. You can tell, you can feel. So you seem like things are good. So what was this discipline? What were these actions that you're doing on a daily?
Yeah. So I started with the basics of like getting up at a specific time. Like I went back to, like I said, my military roots, and I was always obsessed with the concept of how is the military, all services, they're able to take kids, 17 to 20-year-old kids from all across the country, all walks of life, all different situations, different families, different societal structures, bring them to one place, break them down to base level, and make killers out of them to go to fight and defend our country. And it's like, because they break them down, they make them get up at a specific time, they put them on a schedule, they make them be clean and orderly, they make them do physical fitness, they make them learn, they control the food that they eat. And it's all these basic things. They make them drink a lot of water. You can't have alcohol, right? And so I was like, well, I can replicate that same system. I lived it for 11 years. I know what it's like. And so how can I do this in my life? And so that's what I started doing. I removed alcohol completely. I controlled what I ate, drank a gallon of water every day, no matter what. I read every day, no matter what. I did physical fitness every day, no matter what. And it was like, what it had, my feelings about it were a moot point. It was like, I'm going to do it regardless. And I started realizing that, like, as I did this, the feelings of like, I'm tired, I want to have a break day, I want to be able to have a cheat meal, this, that, the other, those feelings were strong in the beginning. But as I pushed through and said, nope, no matter what, I'm not compromising, right? This is a non-negotiable for me. I set a non-negotiable in my life. That feeling got weaker and weaker and weaker. It was like a tiny little voice in my head. And the voice that's like, you're going to do this because you said it, got louder and louder and louder and louder. And so, and everyone has this voice. And it's like your Jiminy Cricket or like the angel and the devil, right, on your shoulder, where the devil's trying to get you to like watch more Netflix, scroll some more, sleep in. All those little things are daily losses. And when you do what you're supposed to do and you get those daily wins, it actually boosts and it makes the angel on your shoulder a lot louder and a lot more powerful and easier to follow. And so I started doing this, and the changes that I had were visible, and I started, I held myself accountable by posting about my journey every day.
Mm.
And people started seeing it. They're like, dude, you just look happier. You look healthier. Like, dude, you're crushing it. What are you doing? And I started attracting these people to me. And I started helping them. And I started helping them and coaching, because I'm passionate about helping people to change and transform their life. And so I'd be like, hey, let's do this, try this. This is what I'm doing, and kind of mimicking my system. And what I found, and what I developed, was my progressive discipline technique. Is that if I can add a small discipline, if I can change one thing, right, that little tiny discipline creates a belief within your mind that, like, you can change. Because a lot of people, they have these self-limiting beliefs of, like, I can't lose weight because I got bad genetics, or my thyroid's out of control, and so I don't, my metabolism's super slow, or like this, that, the other, whatever it is, right? And
label. People love to label themselves.
Absolutely.
Good, bad, or indifferent. But man, if it's not supporting and serving you, get rid of that shit. Labels are meant for boxes. They are not meant for humans. But go ahead. I didn't mean to totally derail, but this one I'm passionate about, man, because people do. I'm this, I'm that. Well, no, it's a choice. You have a choice in this matter. So
absolutely, you're so right, and don't apologize. I love it, and so I started. If I can change one thing, it creates that belief in your mind. Like, if I can change this, I can change that. So, and a really simple concept is, like, let's say that you're a messy person, and I said, hey, every single day when you wake up, I just want you to make your bed. That's it, right? Just make your bed. Like, it takes a couple minutes. You can do it. And what'll happen is that after a while, that's like, oh, I'm just a messy person. I don't mind it, blah, blah. You're going to become proud that you made that change. And then that change, that made bed, will turn into cleaned room. That cleaned room will turn into cleaned house. And no longer are you I'm a messy person, but you're going to be like, I appreciate the clean space that I'm in. And it'll start to change and transform your identity. So I want to progressively increase your disciplines over time by starting the easiest thing. We have our mind, our body, our spirit, and they are all intricately connected. And a lot of people don't realize this. And so a lot of times we let one of them completely go. And that's like trying to go forward in life with an anchor holding us back. You're not going to be able to go forward and really, truly try to reach greatness or chase your potential when you're letting one go. The easiest thing that I can change in somebody is their body. Move more, eat less, drink more water, remove alcohol. Real simple, right? Everyone knows it. It's not the knowledge of nutrition or knowledge of exercise that holds people back. It's the accountability piece. And so if I can keep you accountable to certain things, and typically that's why I do the coaching now, and why I created Delta Fit, was the accountability piece. And that's what holds people back. But if I can change your body within a week, which I can, right? Just by changing your diet and your exercise and removing alcohol and vices, you will notice changes enough that it will create belief, right? And then with that belief, you're going to get a little bit more confidence. And you're going to be like, man, what else can I change? And that confidence in yourself is going to start to seep into your mind. And then that's going to increase your mindset. And then you start pushing yourself. And as you push yourself mentally, you'll start to push yourself physically even more. So now you're pushing both of them. And that's going to create faith, and faith in yourself. That belief in yourself that, like, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, right? It's that discipline within yourself that, like, the promises that you make to yourself, you're going to do. When you say, I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. and start doing my workouts at 4, it doesn't matter if you say, I'm not a morning person. You do it. It doesn't matter, because you've made that decision. It's a non-negotiable. And it's easier to do that when you've built this discipline and confidence and belief in yourself over time. And that leads into the spiritual. And so I realized this in my life when I started to do this program in 2021. And I was like, I'm going to be single. I'm going to work on myself. I'm not going to date. I'm really going to start accessing the dark parts of my mind, right? Which is difficult, by the way, but it's so freeing. And so I had this moment. I was watching the movie Yes Man. And it's such a great movie, but he's like saying yes to all this stuff. And it's like, and all these things are just like opportunities in life that he was avoiding because he was depressed or anxious. But now he's saying yes to them, and they all kind of come together to lead to this beautiful experience and this beautiful life, and it changes his life. And I was like, that's what I need. I need to start saying yes to experiences. Right. And so I had a coach and I had a mentor. And I was telling him about this. He was like, all right, so what do you want to say yes to? I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, why don't you start a hobby? I was like, all right. He was like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, kind of want to, I was like, I want to dance. Like, I like dancing. I either want to like learn like ballroom dancing, or I want to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He was like, pick one now. I was like, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He was like, go sign up. Yes, I signed up. They'll pay like for the year. I started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He was like, hey man, you need to start going back to church. Yes. He was like, hey, a week later, you need to start tithing. Yes. Never tithed before in my life. Yes. I'm gonna start tithing. And it was like all these things I just started saying yes to. So I'm going to church now. And every day in church, I'm like, when I'm taking sacrament, I'm praying during sacrament. I'm usually repenting. And it's just like, hey, I'm sorry for doing this week, that this week, I could have done this better, blah, blah, blah. And so this one day in church, it was like 4 weeks in, and I'm like 3 months into this, and I'm getting into a flow state. Like I'm starting to feel different. Like everything, it's like reading the Matrix. It really is. It's crazy. When you start to do it, it's like everything starts to make sense. Your path before you kind of lights up. Things just start to make a lot more sense in life, and things just start happening. You start attracting these good things. I get better in business. I started breaking records in sales. Like all these things happened. It was because I was just becoming a better person. I wasn't changing my sales ability. I was just becoming an exceptional person that happened to do sales. And so I'm sitting in church and I'm repenting. And this voice, it's like my voice, but this voice is like, you have more to repent for. And I started working backwards, and I worked backwards to the most recent relationship that ended terribly, which there was things that she legitimately did that were bad. And I blamed her. And then I stopped and I was like, but I did some things too. And I can't control her actions, but I can control mine.
Victim or victim.
Repenting.
Love it. Love
I
it.
started repenting for everything that I did. And then I was like, that's it. I feel good. And I was like, you still got more to repent for. And I started working back every relationship that I'd had all the way back to my marriage, back to like when we were in college together. And I just started taking accountability, and it like literally being like, I could have done this better. I could have not cheated on my wife. I could have, instead of getting angry and paying her back and being the villain of that story, you hurt me, I'm hurting you. I could have been like, hey, you hurt me. Let's make sure this never happens again. Right?
Powerful, brother. I mean, you're fascinating. I could ask you so many more questions. I love this idea of the progressive discipline technique because, like you said, you were very clear. It starts with the body. Now, I teach mind, body, soul, very similar, as you said, mind, body, spirit. But it's fascinating the way you were very clear, man. I start with that body, and then we're going to move into the mind, then spiritual and faith, and it all grows. You clearly have a lot to give, brother. And if my audience is sitting here as just bought into your story and just compelled by it, and they want to reach out to you, brother, where's the best place to reach out and find you, Greg? I can't believe how fast time went by.
Yeah, it did go by really fast. The best place to reach me is in Instagram. I'm really active in Instagram. I do a lot of content. I try to provide everything. And I'll be honest, I provide everything. Like if you ask me questions, I'll tell you everything that I do, because I want to help as many people as possible. And so it's usually the accountability piece that people need. And that's where I come in. And that's with my company, Delta Fit. And so you can check out deltafitlife.com, just deltafitlife.com. And it talks about the progressive discipline, talks about the coaching that I do. And, but my Instagram is at Gregory A. Birch _ at Gregory A. Birch _. And yeah, reach out. If you have any questions, I'd love to help. If you have anything that's challenging in your life, or if you feel that you have anxiety or depression and you feel like you're not tapping your potential, what I found is that most of my anxiety was coming from the knowledge that I was living a lie, that I was not tapping into my potential. We are meant to be creators, not consumers. And I was over consuming everything, and I was not creating, and I was not creating opportunities. I was not creating a better life for myself, better life for others. And so that created anxiety and depression in my life. And so when I stopped doing that, started focusing on others, started focusing on building myself so I could help others, it completely changed my life. I got off of medication. I've not had, it's a constant battle, I guess, with depression and anxiety, but I haven't had any issues whatsoever. And it's been truly transformational.
Brother, it's absolutely inspiring. And I'm so appreciative of you being so vulnerable and sharing so much. And you're clearly changing lives. And brother, there's nothing more. I can't give a better compliment than that you're truly transforming and changing lives. And it's amazing. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing it with us today.
It's my pleasure, man. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity just to share my story. And this has been great. I love it.
Guys, go check him out. I mean, he said within a week, I can and will change your body. That was so definitive, so clear. He said, I can and will change your body. And if anybody's struggling with depression, anxiety, and by the way, the majority of us are in some regard, you have solutions. So go, please check him out. Share this with someone. Share this with somebody that you know is struggling right now that could use that inspiration, that confidence, that fire that's lacking. Share it out with them, you guys. That's the whole purpose of the show. I told you, we're going to help you be healthy, happy, wealthy. Greg nailed all of them, man. And so remember, until next time, your mindset matters. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.